Well, I just finished doing the brakes. I replaced the caliper and the rotor on the right side, and I replaced the brake hanger and the parking brake assembly as a unit, and the rotor and caliper on the left side. I still need to bleed those brakes, but basically I could finish up that in a little bit, put the wheels on, tires and wheels back on, and it'd be ready to go. But I got one more thing I want to do back here on the back end before I put those wheels on. I got to replace that rear bumper. That thing is just, I mean, it's been bad for a while. I ordered one and got it last year. I haven't wanted to take the time to do it because I knew it was going to take me a while to do it. Replacing the bumper itself is pretty simple. There's a half a dozen bolts to take out, but knowing me, I always get into this stuff a lot farther than just replacing the bumper. And like that tow hitch there, I'm just bound to take it off there and want to sandblast it, clean it up and repaint it. And anyway, I've been waiting until I had plenty of time to do it. I think I'm pretty much done flying for the spring season, and it's going to be a few weeks before we get ready for the summer season here now. Anyway, I'm going to take the time now. That thing is just getting, well, it's not a bumper anymore. It's just rotted out tinfoil now. First thing to do on that, of course, is to, well, I'm going to take off the trailer ball hitch here, this portion. I'm going to take the license plate off and the trailer electrical connector, and then there's two license plates lights, they got to come out, and then a bunch of bolts and stuff underneath. Now I think I'm going to drop that spare tire out from underneath there. I don't think I absolutely need to drop the spare tire, but it'll give me more light in there to work on things and see things. Okay, I took the trailer connector out of there. That was just held in with 4 screws. Goes through the bumper, and then there's a nut plate, a plate on the back of it that holds it in. Now this is not the standard factory one. I changed it out a couple years ago. Factory one, what happened was the plastic cover over this 7-pin adapter here broke off, and when it breaks off, then it goes up to cover or it goes down to cover this hole to protect it, and then it goes up, and the door on there has got a little tang that hangs down that hooks on the trailer connector, and when it's not on there, then the trailer connector can back out. So I got this new one on there and put in there, and I got one with a 4-pin adapter on it. The other one didn't have that on it. It was just a 7-pin adapter. And Dodge comes with the 4-pin adapter down here just dangling underneath the truck, where it can hang up on everything and picks up all the dirt and mud and sand and salt and everything else. So I thought this would be better, getting it up here out of the way where it can hook into it and keep it protected. But this thing here did the same thing. The first time I plugged the trailer into it, it was cold, of course, and the plastic there, the ears broke off of it where it's on that pin. And so now whenever we use this, the trailer plug just vibrates out. It'll go in and hook up and work fine, but then as we're driving it vibrates out, and then we'll lose the brakes and lights on the trailer. Well, then we got the license plate lights here. They're just fit in through a square opening here on the side of the license plate or the step area of the bumper, and they've just got a steel clamp that fits on the back of them to hold them in. So I just pull that out, and these will pop out this way, a bayonet fitting on the light bulb to undo to get it out of there. Sheet metal screws up here on the top of the license plate to hold it on, and then down below I took out the sheet metal screws and I put in Schrader valves here. These are for airing up the airbags, so those have got to come off, then the license plate will come off. I'll take that license plate off of there now. Alright, I got the spare tire out from underneath there. That's going to give me more room to work. So this is a spare tire. Now I cut out a sidewall of an old tire and put on there for a buffer, because I've had that tire wear weak spots in the sidewall on it from sitting there riding underneath the truck. So this protects the tire. You can see where this has been rubbing a little bit on there. These are the backup light fixtures here, and they're held in with these little springs here that fits through the bumper, and then these things slide over them and kind of spring tension holds them. Now these things are pretty crudded up. Basically, the bumper is disconnected from everything except the bolts that hold it on. Now, looking underneath there, I can see that I'm going to want to do a little bit more work than just take that off there. Once I got to looking, that thing is pretty crappy in there. These bumper lights and stuff here, well, I can hold that, but I can't see that. Fold that by hand, but there's a lot of flaked off metal in there and stuff on some of the parts that stay in there, like this trailer hitch. The bolts are pretty cruddy on there. It's a good time to take that out of there. That's kind of what I expected. I'll get the bumper off and we'll take another look at it, but let's see what we got with this bumper kit. Well, here's the bumper kit. Actually, that is not so bad. So here's the bumper kit, and it has this plastic cover already over it, so I don't have to worry about trying to salvage that one off of there. And it already has backup light fixtures in there. See what else we got here. It's got these brackets on there already here. This is where it attaches to the brackets that go on the frame. So they're already on there. There's a whole bunch of new bolts and these nuts on there. These tabs, I guess, right here. Let's see what we got here. I think these go through there like that to hold that on. I don't know what this is for. I suppose probably should look in the instructions and see. So I should put my glasses on so I can see. Another bracket there. And here's a new wiring harness. Need a 15mm socket, 15mm box end wrench, a T15 Torx driver, a flathead screwdriver, and a ratchet. So these are the bumper brackets. These go onto the fender, right and left. Cool. Okay. Well, that takes care of the whole bumper assembly. I thought I was going to have to take off some of those brackets and sandblast them and powder coat them or something. And to me, like, we got pretty much everything we need. That'll fit in there just fine. I just have to trim out a little bit of the plastic around one of these notches, so that thing is already pre-cut for this jack. I've got a new jack coming. I'm happy. I don't have to do anything with that bumper. Got everything we need for that. Cool, that's just like the original, only it's not rusty. I'm going to set it over here out of the way. I got some PB Blaster and some WD-40. I think I'm going to crawl underneath there and spray on all those bolts and nuts and stuff and let them soak overnight. Well, crawling around underneath there, the underside of that truck really looks pretty good. The tow bar is rusty. There is a little bit of rust on the rear part of that frame where the bumper attaches and the tow hitch. I think I'm going to take that tow hitch off of there and clean it up. And once I get that bumper off there, I'll be able to see the rear part of the frame better. Take the tow hitch off there, and then I'll clean that up a little bit with a wire brush and put some corrosion stuff on there. And that thing should be good for another 15 years. I don't want to spend $80,000 on a new truck, and this one's perfectly fine. I was worried that was going to show some more rust back there on that frame, but the underside of the box, the body, and the frame all look really good, except right there where that bumper is attached. So I'm going to let that penetrating fluid soak on that a little bit before I start trying to beat it off there, but it looks like everything's going to come off pretty clean. I'll probably take a wire brush and clean the threads off those bolts and stuff. Yeah, I'm happy. I got all of the parts to replace everything on there. There's no need to clean anything up for the bumper itself. I've got all the hardware and everything to put it all back together. And when I put it back together, I'll probably coat all the hardware and stuff with Peralcatone like I do with the parts on the airplane when I put it back together. It holds up on salt water on the airplane for 4 or 5 years. It should hold up for longer than that here on this truck. Like I said, I think I'm done for the day here now. I'll go in. Judy's got bread in the oven, should be coming out now, and hopefully got some dinner ready or something, but it's time to go in and spend some time with her. Well, the instructions there said to use a 15mm socket and a 15mm wrench to get those bolts out of there, to remove that bumper out of the frame. All the nuts on there are kind of attached to the frame, so we just put the 15mm socket on the bolts and we're able to take those out of there. I sprayed some PRC, no, what did I spray on there? Oh, PB Blaster on there last night and let them soak overnight. And then I come out here and used a wire wheel and cleaned up around the threads on them that were sticking out from the nuts, and then sprayed a little more PB Blaster on them. They were still tough coming out of there. I don't know whether that worked or not, but I got all those out of there. Then there were two that I didn't really see before. There's two each on each one of these frames that go into the frame. But then there's one, because I've got the trailer hitch on there, there's one long one that goes through the trailer hitch and the frame, and then in the bumper, and it's got these nut dealy here on the back side of them. Well, those I couldn't get to break loose with a hammer with the air wrench. Oh, I wound up getting my big long flex wrench, and I was able to get them cracked loose and then get them to come out. They've got a long tab on them here, and that was tightened up against, when it tightened up against the frame going that way. But for loosening them, then I had to spin them around the other way and get them against the frame on the other way. Anyway, those are pretty cruddy. I'll probably have to go to town and see if I can get some new ones of those. Maybe I'll clean them up on the wire wheel first and see how they look then. The instructions that I saw on it said to hold that bumper up and take these two bolts here out. These two bolts here go into the trailer hitch and into the frame. But I decided to take the ones out underneath first, got those out, and that, so the bumper's ready to come loose from the frame and the trailer hitch. And then I can take these two out standing up here where I don't have to be underneath it to do it. So there was two bolts in there that I didn't really see. They go in right here, right in this area, and they go into the trailer hitch. And those two were crudded up pretty bad, and I couldn't get into those with a wire wheel or anything. But I was able to get the one on the right side out. The one on the left side just tore loose from the bumper and spun out. So that should be able to come out of there. Now I'll see if I get these two bolts out of here, and those are 15mm. Those are swelled up so bad from the rust that I couldn't hardly get it on the wrench on it. The one on the left side, the wrench spun on it, so I don't know, I'm going to have to figure something else on it. But I got the one on the right side out. There we go. Not much salvage in that thing. Those hangers are okay in there, but I got new hangers, so. Well, there's most of my bumper right down there on the floor. So this bolt right here, this nut right here, it's one of those captured spring nuts, and it just spun and tore the metal from the bumper loose. So I'm going to have to get a grinder or something and grind that out of there. Then there's some kind of a little pin comes through right here. It's just a locator pin, I guess, or something. So anyway, I'm going to take this off of there and take a look at it out of the off the truck and see whether I can sandblast it, clean it up, and paint it, put it back on, or whether I want to get a new one. This thing takes a lot of abuse. I'm towing a trailer with a Bobcat, stuff like that on it. This thing's got to be pretty stout. That didn't work. Don't want to come out of there very bad. Those nuts are welded or tacked or something onto the plate there for the trailer hitch. So the bolts come out, I got them loosened up with the breaker bar, then they come out part way, then they start getting into the threads where they're exposed out there and the rust and stuff on them. Even though I've cleaned those up with a wire brush, they don't want to come out. What I was doing was running them in, wringing them out until they got tight, run them back in again, spray a little bit of a lubricant on them, and run them back out again, and keep doing that back and forth until they got out. And that was working, but that top one on the other side, the nut broke loose, so I'm going to have to get a wrench put on it or something to see if I can get it up. Not exactly what I expected. That thing didn't fall out of there. At least it didn't fall on my head. Now I got to do a little bit of a checking and see. It almost seems like there might be another bolt or something in there someplace, but anyway, that thing's on there pretty tight. Well, I crawled around underneath there, taking a closer look at that hitch assembly. It looks like you have to pull the box up to get that hitch assembly off of there. This arc goes over the top of that frame rail right there and behind this pickup box, so it saddles over the top of that frame. I thought it just bolted up to it, but it don't. So like I said, it'd have to wind up pulling the box off of there, at least lifting it up, and I'm not in the mood to do that. So I'm going to clean this up the best I can here with it attached to the pickup like that and put it back together. So I guess first things first, we'll go ahead and clean up that hitch assembly the best we can. I'll get some Cora-Seal and paint it up places where it's really rusty. Everything else mostly looks pretty good. I was hoping I'd get that hitch assembly off there and clean up the tail end of those frame rails, but that's not going to happen. I'll get back to cleaning this trailer hitch up. Get a little bit more to clean up on it. I used the needle gun on it yesterday and cleaned up the heavy rust. I've got most of the top side of it cleaned up with the wire wheel. Work on it some more. Well, I got that just about as good as I can with a wire brush. All I need to do is get the loose rust off of there. I don't need to get all the rust because I'm going to put Cora-Seal on it, and that's a rust conversion process. So well, that's about as good as I can get that without taking it off of there. Of course, sandblasting it would be the best option, but I got it pretty well cleaned up. I'll take the air hose now, dust it all off, and then I'll take some paint thinner and wash everything and get it washed up clean. Let that flash off before I put the Cora-Seal on there. Well, I got that pretty well cleaned off. Got to wait for that paint thinner now to flash off, which shouldn't take too long. There's a pretty good breeze blowing in here. It's cooled off quite a bit, but there's a little breeze blowing in here. So I'm going to go up and get the Cora-Seal, get a brush and stuff, and get ready to put that on there. And it's, like I said, it's cooled off a little bit. It's a little bit cool for applying that, but it'll still work. It just takes a while for it to cure, so it's going to have to set up 24 hours before we put the bumper on, or before I paint it with anything or anything like that. So well, this is Cora-Seal. That's what I'm going to put on there. It's a rust conversion coating. It's kind of water based. It cleans up with water. So I'm going to put it in a little potato salad tin, a cup, a little bit of it, and then put it on with a brush. So this is kind of a dirty white color, liquid. It goes on white, and then it turns kind of a purple, blue purple, black color as it cures. And then any spots that didn't get on there good enough will still be white colored, so you can go over it again a second time with a second coat. I got some drip down onto my creeper, so I get a wet rag and wash that up, but that just washes up with water. Not going to do any good on the places that didn't get all the paint off of them, and any place that had bare clean metal that didn't have any rust on it, it's not going to stick to it, but it does stick to the rust and converts it pretty good. Now it looks pretty good. Now it's got to cure. Got to cure for 24 hours before we top coat it. But it looks better than it did anyway. Well, the Cora-Seal on that tow hitch set up overnight and it's dried to the touch, but it's still not finished. It's cool and damp here. Noon now, a little after noon now, and I can still see my breath out here, so it's cooled off quite a bit. It's been damp, rainy. That stuff's supposed to take at least 24 hours before you top coat it, so it's going to take a little longer than that. But I got a couple other things I want to do anyway. I sent my wife to town this morning. I'm going to have her get a couple things. And these two bolts here, they go through that mount plate and then also help mount the bumper up. They're pretty bad. They're pretty crudted up. I didn't want to put those back in there, so I had her go to town. When she went to town today, I had her take these with her to see if we can get some replacements for it. I want to get grade 8 bolts. Well, she got to town, and of course, us both being home and retired, never thought about it being Memorial Day and all the stores being closed up. So anyway, that didn't happen. I'm going to go ahead and put the top 2 bolts in there, the ones that go through the frame, and do that now. I'm going to let that cure up some more and then I'm going to try painting it with some black paint to get it prettied up real nice. Meanwhile, I've got a couple other things I want to do. Oh, here's the bumper here. Basically, I could put it on now, except for painting that trailer hitch. But there's a couple things I want to do. I still don't have the new trailer light socket fixture. That's not going to be here for a few days. And I don't have the light bulbs, or the light bulbs for the license plate light. But I've got everything else to put that in with. But as you might imagine, being here in Alaska, we do a lot of driving here at night and out on the road, working, backing up, and things like that. It gets dark, so one of the things I want to do is I've got these LED lights I want to mount here into the bumper someplace so that we got a little bit more light when we're backing up or working at night. Could just hook those up to the reverse lights, the backup lights on the truck, but I'm kind of thinking I might want to just wire those into a switch so that I can turn them on and off when I want, instead of have to have the truck in reverse when I do it. So I've got a little bit of work to do on that. I've got to figure out where I'm going to put those and make cutouts for them and stuff. And then I've got some work to do on the wiring underneath the truck. I want to do some change up on the wiring stuff that I've got under there. And I've got a new kit for the tailgate to replace all the hardware in the tailgate. And I've got a new tailgate latch handle that has a camera in it. So I've got to run the plumbing for that, the wiring for that up to the front of the truck too. It's not going to be wired into the truck yet for the backup camera, but I've got to put it in there and get that all that run. So now that I've got the truck opened up underneath the back here, it's a lot easier to work on all that stuff. Well, anyway, that's what's on the agenda for now.